tourney and get matched with my dame. Just one more goat bounce and I've got the game. Then on her turn she plays Shift Donald Duck. Gosh, it seems that I've run out of luck.
Come on now, let's play some more Kana. With such a sugar rush, it's a nirvana. We'll rip a booster pack or four, start food fights and roast a smorgasbord of Lord S'more Kana.
What a festive occasion.
Ooh, it's a birthday up in here.
Lorcana turned 1.
Happy first birthday, Lorcana.
It's just taking its first steps, and yet it can already run so fast.
Wow. If you enjoyed this content, follow us on social media.
We haven't been playing for a year.
We have not been playing for a year. We've been playing for almost a year. We got each other Lorcana for Christmas last year.
Yeah, Santa brought it.
Yes, he did.
Thanks, Santa.
Thank you, Santa. So, we are close.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brett.
I'm Katie.
And this is S'morekana Radio.
Hi. The weather outside is chilly. What's the traffic looking like out there, Brett?
It's nice and breezy, as it always is here on S'morekana, the Lorcana/Snack/Disney variety show.
You're listening to S'morekana Radio, playing highlights from Lorcana across the world. Speaking of Lorcana across the world, someone's about to be an international traveler.
Yep, driving over the border. We're going to sail up Niagara Falls and sojourn on to Toronto.
Woo!
A city I have not been to.
No.
Before.
Right.
I'm so excited.
It's going to be great.
I'm very excited.
Yes, yes.
I think I locked in my deck. I think I'm good to go. I think I know exactly what my list will be. It has some spice, and it is spice that I am very confident in.
Yeah.
So in terms of like its place in the deck.
Yeah, you're really killing it with this deck.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I'm proud of how you've been playing. Like in our games at home, I've been able to watch it go from like beatable to completely unbeatable. So it's been a lot of fun.
I just feel like I know the lines. I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm going to outperform myself in Fort Worth. I feel a lot better about my potential for this one. And I want to win half my games. That's my goal, to win half my games. I think that's definitely achievable. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to shoot for. And then anything beyond that is gravy. And having a great time is the most important thing, as ever.
Yes, of course. And you're going to have a great time. I can't wait to hear about how this is. Already, the setup of this seems really different than how it was in Texas. Like, Toronto being in a hotel is different than a rodeo house.
Yeah, for sure. And you're going to hear exactly how Toronto went in like 5 minutes here, because that's going to be our appetizer course. We're recording most of this episode just before I leave, and then I'm going to hopefully record a little insert on the road. I'm going to bring our podcasting equipment to Toronto, maybe do a little bit of an interview while we're out there. We'll see what happens. You're going to find out with me really soon. I'm really excited, though, because Becky and Katie are going to Toronto. And I think, like, of the, figureheads in the Lorcana community, they're the ones that we've had the most internet communication with.
Yeah.
And they've been the most kind of encouraging to us, some of our most encouraging listeners. And so I'm really, really excited to meet Katie and Becky, who is casting the event. She is part of the official Lorcana cast team. How cool is that? It's
going to be such a blast. I really hope you get to meet them in person. They've only existed as figments of our imagination, so I'm really excited for that for you.
And you will know how well she did. So actually, we're just going to say right now, Becky did a great job casting this weekend.
Right, because we'll know.
Yeah, when you listen to this, it will have already happened, and you'll be nodding along saying, yeah, she really killed it.
Time travel, folks, it's crazy.
It's one of the unspoken glamorous benefits of being a podcaster, is you do get to travel through time a little bit.
And we abuse that for sure. The Time Lords will come and get us.
But yeah, I'm feeling good about Toronto. We've been playing a lot of Ruby Amethyst versus Emerald Amethyst matchups because, you're adept with that Ruby Amethyst list, and that's great practice that you've been willing to give me. Thank you for that. So
fun. I love playing Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah, but we've both been bouncing a lot of characters, and we've been playing a lot of goats and singing with the goats constantly, and there have been some stirring renditions, let me tell you.
my gosh, those goats can sing, man.
They can sing. They sing Friends. They sing Be King Undisputed, which is, always hilarious.
Yes, yes. Beautiful singers. I really had hopes for the goat showing up again in Shimmering Skies as, like, one of Gazelle's backup dancers or singers.
Maybe there'll be a floodborn Merlin goat. Wouldn't that be cool?
My gosh.
That would be so fun.
Well, now that we said it, it's going to happen.
We can shift the new Merlin onto the goat. That would be fun.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But we haven't built any of these decks because we've been in Toronto mode. We've done very little building for set 5. We tried a few, spicy lists that we're excited to talk about eventually, but it's been mostly Toronto prep.
Yeah, and when you come back, we're going to be hitting that hard. We're going to be going right into all those new decks. We can't wait. We've got a whole list of ones we want to build.
Plus, our league is starting up, our Shimmering Skies League at Diversions.
Yes! Ow, ow, ow! So, for Shimmering Skies, there are 2 starter decks that you can choose from. One is an Amethyst Ruby starter deck that is called Ready to Let Loose. And the other is an Emerald and Steel starter deck called a Roaring Guest List. Which one did you pick, Brett?
I didn't really have a preference between them. I just requested that you and I get one of each between us, right?
Exactly. That's the way to go.
You were kind of drawn to the Emerald Steel list because it has Scar and Kronk on the front.
And the hyenas!
And I was more than okay with that because the Ruby Amethyst starter has my girl Elsa on the cover. Mm-hmm. And that Elsa card is quite good, and I'm more than happy to use her in my league deck.
Yeah, I'm really excited for both of these. I didn't have hard feelings about last set's starter decks necessarily. I mean, I was excited about the heroes and I had a lot of fun with it, but I think these 2 from the outside, I'm more excited about the theming of them. And I think that's also because overall I'm more excited about the theming of Shimmering Skies.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a lot brighter, a lot more colorful, a lot more variation, and the characters are doing a wider range of things in their art, yeah.
Yeah, it just feels more themed, right? Like calling one of these starter decks a Roaring Guest List is like so cute and themey to me, and it still keeps it in that like Shimmering Skies party theme. Whereas Ursula's Return, everything felt like the dark depths of sea time.
The battle with the big sea witch Ursula.
Right.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you want the battle sea witch pack, or do you want the sea witch battle under the sea pack? It's like, isn't that the same? So I don't know. I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to that trading aspect of our league. It's something that we've discussed before, and I want to highlight again is our league runs a format where you start with your starter deck and an extra booster pack, and then each subsequent week you add 2 booster packs to your in-store collection, and then you can use your in-store collection to trade with other folks in the league and make your deck from all of those deals. So I think it adds a really interesting layer to the league format. It keeps everybody engaged week to week. It's a pretty level playing field. I just think it is a huge win in terms of celebrating the set, allowing new players to play with more experienced players in a really neat format. And I would say that the diversions that we usually go to can comfortably fit in its usual layout 16 people comfortably for league. And we have over 20 signed up for this iteration of league.
It's crazy.
They're going to be adding temporary tables and stuff. So our league is absolutely flourishing. It's so cool to see. I love hanging out with, everybody who goes to our league. It's really, really great. I think we lucked into a great community, a really welcoming space. And, I like to say you get out of Lorcana events what you put into them. And so, I want to give credit to everybody who's in our league for going in with this open attitude and this welcoming atmosphere and promoting that. It's really great. I think it's just the best.
Yes, here. I think it's so much fun. We, like you said, enjoy spending time with everybody there. We're so lucky that it's 10 minutes down the road from us. I look forward to it all week long. I'm staring down the barrel of school starting again, which is fun and cool, but different. And having league is one of those things that I'm really excited for as a nice little escape from the everyday. So it's a blast. If you have a local game store near you that you have yet to check out and you see Lorcana posters up there, peek your head in, because there might be a really cool league or a really cool group of people that meet once a week just to play, casual constructed. You never know. So take the leap and just see, because sometimes you really luck out.
Well said, Katie.
Well said, Brett.
What do we want to talk about today? What's on the menu? What dishes are we expecting?
Oh, there's so much on the menu this week. So, for our appetizer, we're going to have a Toronto-styled poutine dish.
Naturally.
Classic. For our main course, we're going to talk about the limited format of Lorcana.
Yeah, we're going to offer some tips, some meaty advice for how to approach limited at all, as well as some of our favorite do and don't draft/play cards in Shimmering Skies. Then we'll be moving on to our dessert course, which I'm super pumped about. Ooh. I saw you doing a little bit of research. I tried not to poke into it too much, but you have a bet you didn't know about Diz prepared for us.
It's a very exciting one. You and I were kind of brainstorming about what the theme of this episode was going to be. We stumbled upon sort of some Great White North cold Canadian themes, and we stumbled upon this idea for Bet You Didn't Know About Diz, and I got so excited, and it's going to be so much fun.
Can't wait to hear all about it. I know last week our menu was super light and fluffy. We basically just gorged on cotton candy, and it was all really, really silly. So a jam-packed, meaty episode for y'all this week.
Yes, lots of vegetables and protein this week.
Got to balance things out.
So let's hop into it.
Ah, look at this dish. Look at this poutine. It looks absolutely magnificent. I mean, that is everything you want to see in a snack. Friends, I have had a great time here at the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Toronto. I wanted to give a quick update about how things went. We'll give you the full rundown next week, but just in brief, had a great time, met so many cool people, finished with 35 points, which, I, again, won more games than I lost. So can't really ask for too much more than that. And I'll be happy to go into more detail on the next episode. But for now, a special surprise kind of cropped up here at the end of the weekend. And so I'm going to toss it to an interview that I think you're going to enjoy very much. I am so excited because I managed to track down half of the superlative casting team for the DLC Toronto. And I am so honored and thrilled and buzzing with excitement to be with Becky and Rebecca. Hello. How are you doing?
We're doing so good. We just finished day 2. We're done. We casted all the matches we were going to cast, and now we're off the clock. And we ran into Brett, and we're like, let's do some more work.
Right? Why not?
Yeah, after talking for 2 straight days, and I said, hey, you want to come talk some more? And you said,
let's do it.
Yeah.
For Brett, anything.
Oh.
We could not resist.
That is some professionalism right there. Are your voices tired? I know you're, performer here,
Not
Rebecca.
too bad, actually.
I'm surprised for myself. I guess because I was alone for a lot of time. Since the pandemic, I haven't worked in an office, but I do have kids, and I guess I do talk to them a lot because I was wondering how my voice would go for 2 straight days, and not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, they sound warm. They sound resonant. It sounds like you do some
very
warm-ups.
Right. Yeah, some Sharpay. And
I just sung a little Eminem
Amazing.
to get me going.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, do you have a go-to?
I love Rap God. Anyway,
Katie's going to love to hear that. She her father-daughter dance at our wedding was to Eminem.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, they
my
were total
gosh.
goofballs. So it was
Fantastic.
really appreciate that. So, all right. So, did you have any favorite moments from casting the weekend? Did you have anything that stuck out in your mind or any highlights?
Okay, I'm going to talk first.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been lucky enough to This is my 4th Disney Lorcana challenge that I've done, but this was the first time that there was another lady on the team.
Yeah.
And I was so excited that Becky was here casting and that we got to cast a couple of matches together. It was so fun. So that was definitely my favorite highlight.
Absolutely. I honestly totally agree. It was such an honor to being able to cast with you because you're experienced in this.
No.
And we worked together before, like you've been on my podcast a few times. And just being able to talk to you, it felt like almost coming home. Even though we had never met in real life, it's just like being able to talk to each other. And we had an amazing dynamic. Like, I felt like right off.
I think it was too. Yes. Yeah,
so.
for sure.
Awesome. I'm sure it was. So by this point in the episode, we have already told people that you did a great job.
Yeah.
That was, 5 minutes ago, real time for whoever's listening right now. And now we can confirm that you did, in fact, do an amazing job, I think.
Wow.
I personally can't wait to take a look when we get back to New Hampshire.
Yeah, it was a great weekend, and Tannen and Liam are both amazing, and we all got to rotate through, get paired up with different people, watched a lot of fun games. It was just a great weekend.
How did you sustain yourselves in terms of food? Because we know that's really important to this particular podcast.
Snacks.
Rebecca was much healthier than I was.
I did have a salad at one point.
A salad?
And I had
Wow.
a roasted chickpeas, snack, some good
Wow.
protein
Good for
sources
you.
and some fruit.
Wow, fiber and everything. You go, girl.
Yeah.
What about you?
I sustained the last 2 days basically on Lay's potato chips and sour gummy candy. But I have to say, though, I was so excited to come to Canada for many reasons. Amazing culture here, amazing people, but also ketchup-flavored Lay's.
Oh, good.
Oh,
They're my favorite chips, and
I
you
need to
can't
get
get them
some.
in America. Literally any convenience store here will have some. Grab some, take them home. They're so good.
See, everybody thought that I was getting, y'all to come on the podcast to talk about Lorcana, but really we need the hard snack tips. This is what we need,
Yes.
the insider scoop. Like when you're coming over the border, you go for the ketchup flavored Lay's.
They also have all dressed, which most people, like most Canadians, think is their best chip, but I would disagree. It's the ketchup.
There we
okay.
go.
I didn't try any of the snacks, but I did have some poutine last night.
Oh, great.
That was
Delicious.
my first time. Yeah. it was
First time
good.
having poutine.
Yes,
What'd
ever.
you think?
I loved it.
What's not to
I
like?
did. I mean,
Fries,
fries,
gravy.
gravy, cheese.
Just a bunch of good
yeah.
stuff. And you can worry about your arteries later.
Later.
Right? They'll be okay.
That's America's problem. We're in Canada.
And you're burning it off like this, casting, right? I mean,
Exactly.
instantly.
Something like that.
So did you have any cards that stood out to you? Like anything surprise you over the weekend?
Yes.
So it's a long time now. One of my favorite cards is McDuck Manor, and we got to see it in play and
Multiple times.
Yeah, and I was before the match, I was extolling all the virtues of McDuck Manor to Rebecca, mentioning that it can fit a lot of ducks. And Rebecca's like, "You gotta bring that up when you see it played."
I said, please. I cracked
So-
up when she said that. And I was like, if McDuck Manor is played while we're on stream, please say
So it's
that.
McDuck Manor, you could fit so many ducks in here, and you can at least 5. canonically.
Oh yeah, I mean Scrooge has all those vaults underground
Exactly,
too, with all
right?
those
Infinite
doors.
ducks, really, if
Yeah.
you wanted to push.
Trust.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I think when we were doing our Into the Inklands preview episode, Katie highlighted McDuck Manor as like one of her favorite cards, and at the time I was like, I don't know, I don't think it's very good, and she was right. So
was
I,
right.
Shun the non-believer.
yeah, I've come around. I've started
Yeah,
to
that's good.
adopt. The,
I always say
gospel of McDuck Manor.
9 willpower is
Ah,
basically
it's so
infinite
good.
willpower against
So good.
most decks.
Oh yeah. Give the ducks 9 butt. Like that's what they
Oh,
need,
man.
right?
Big fluff butt.
Big,
Yeah.
fluffy duck butts.
Totally. Well, thank you so much. I'm not going to take up too much more of your time because I know you're probably very tired from this long weekend, but I really appreciate you stopping by. Can
Thanks,
you
Brad.
give everybody a little rundown of what you're up to and what the future might hold and where to find your content?
Oh, for sure. So, yeah, Rebecca Quests everywhere. Instagram, mostly. Also on Twitter. You can find me on Discord hanging out in some different servers. And, yeah, I just keep having fun over on Instagram, making the fun reels and stuff. I made a fun reel here, actually.
Yeah, you did.
This morning.
She showed me this
emergency.
morning.
Emergency.
Well,
That's right.
You're a machine. The amount of content you can put out. I could not. I'm supposed to be a content creator. Literally, it took 4 pictures since I got here 48 hours ago. You're a machine. I'm so impressed
And
with
you every single one, it absolutely
Banger after
yes,
banger.
every
Oh,
single one.
thank
You
you.
don't miss. You just every time you shoot for the moon and land in the stars, it's
thank you.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I have a lot of fun, and figure if I'm having fun, then other people will too. So, yeah.
That's a great attitude. And I am Becky. I am half of the podcast Live, Laugh, Lorcana, available where all your podcast things are. But also, we've been starting to do a little more. We just couldn't let Rebecca have anything for herself and started doing some reels of our own
They're
on
so
our
good.
Instagram.
Which
And
are also excellent.
we've been having a lot of fun with it.
That's great. That's what's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels a lot less stressful than a podcast. So, Brett, if you ever need like a little break,
Yeah.
start doing reels.
Yeah.
Take some reels.
That sounds
Real
good.
time.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
real time. Real.
Yay.
Right. Awesome. Thank you both so much.
Thanks, Brett.
Safe travels back to Pittsburgh and
California.
right?
Yep,
Yeah,
long trip back.
awesome. All right.
Bye.
Well, what an adventure that was.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it back from Toronto just in time for the main course.
Perfect. You went all the way to Canada for some poutine, and you came back just in time. Oh, here comes our main dish. Hello.
Hi, Helga. Hi, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you and Francois doing?
Good.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. It seems like you two are doing very well.
I have brought your dish. It is many bites, which we only have for 2 weeks. It's limited foods.
Oh, cool. Kind of a chef special.
Yes, enjoy.
Thank you so much, Helga. Ooh,
Wow.
look at that. The chef's choice here.
Yeah, limited time specialty things we've got
Love
here.
it. All right, we're going to talk about the limited formats of Disney's Lorcana presented by Ravensburg.
What the heck is limited?
So, limited formats are things like sealed and draft. It's when you don't have access to your whole collection, and instead, the cards that you're able to use in the event are selected by you on the day of
Right.
whatever event you're attending.
From a limited pool of cards, you're making these decks.
So you might have a sealed event where you get 6 packs and you make a 40 card deck from those, or you might have a draft where you open packs, you pick a card, and then you pass the pack around the circle of players and you make a deck from those choices. Any kind of format where you don't have your deck in advance and instead it's made on the day, that is a limited format.
I personally love limited format.
It's a lot of fun, right? You don't know what to expect. You get to open packs. It's great. It takes some of the stress out of it, I think, sometimes. There's nothing you can do to really prepare for it, so you just roll up. If you know the cards, generally, cool, that can help, but even then, you just use your instincts, build the deck, have some fun.
Exactly. It's a blast. And you normally, I don't know when you wouldn't, so I guess you always get to leave with the cards you've opened that day.
If you're really into strategy for limited formats and you want more information on this, there is an entire Lorcana limited podcast called 40 Born that we've talked about before. It has been kind of paused/stopped, but you can still go back and access all of their episodes, and they do an amazing job talking about some of the fundamentals of limited. But in their absence, we did want to talk about it a little bit because it is a format or a set of formats that we have had some success with. A quick interruption here.
OMG.
Katie just happened to glance at her phone as we were recording and saw that her Bell Accomplished Mystic playmat has shipped.
Ooh, thanks, Target.
That's cool.
Yes, it's very exciting. Wow.
Cool.
I had to interrupt our conversation
Com-
just to show you that text.
I looked over as I was talking, and I just saw you glance at your phone, and then your eyes lit up, and I was like, well, I have to ask now. And it happened to be Lorcana related, so.
Oh, so exciting. Anyways, back to limited.
Yeah, so do check out 40 Born. But that said, we wanted to talk about some of the basics. How do we approach limited formats in a way that brings us the success that we've had, whatever success we have had. We have been lucky to take down several limited Lorcana tournaments between us, and so we wanted to share what some of our approaches have been. So first of all, as a baseline, limited is about controlling the board.
Right, this makes sense.
The most important thing about limited is having more powerful characters on the board than your opponent in a way that isn't always the case in a constructed format.
Right, and this is because you can't really build a deck to necessarily pull off combos and such, right?
Right, it's a little bit less swingy. It's a lot harder to come back in a limited format, generally speaking. But besides that, it is a really great space to learn the fundamentals of Lorcana because it really kind of distills the game down to its essence. It's about playing powerful glimmers on the board, having them challenge each other, trying to gain advantages through challenging, and then using your advantage on the board to gain lots of lore and gain more lore than your opponent.
Right.
In fact, Frank Karsten, who won a Disney Lorcana challenge and is a longtime Magic player who's like in their Hall of Fame and has won all of these huge events, and he's a math professor, obviously a really bright guy and a famous card game player. He has said that he believes that limited formats involve a greater expression of skill than constructed formats. And I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with that, but that's a really well-respected member of the card gaming community who's saying that limited formats are really skill testing, and a lot of it does boil down to knowing the fundamentals.
Right. That's encouraging to hear, because I think a lot of times what I enjoy, at least in my own mind palace and my brain, right, about limited formats is not having to overthink in the ways that I think I overthink when deck building or when playing constructed, right? I'm thinking way big picture for those, and this feels like I can just dial into, the point of the game, just getting to 20 lore and killing my opponent's stuff if they get too close, and it feels much more clear to me when I'm playing in these formats, but it definitely takes a lot of skill to be able to do that. You can't know nothing going into it. And I agree with you and with Frank Karsten that those two different styles of playing take just different parts of your brain. And some people are left-brained and right-brained. Some people are constructed-brained and some people are limited-brained.
Totally, and that's why some card games will have their world championships be half constructed and half limited formats, because it does involve different skill sets, drafting cards and analyzing them on the fly, cards that are lesser known, right? Lesser played, that you haven't put in your constructed deck in a while. That's a skill. Being able to quickly, on the fly, look at two cards and know which one is going to fit in your deck better. The deck that you don't even know anything about yet, right?
Right.
That's a skill. It's a different skill than trying to figure out the 59th and 60th cards in your constructed deck.
Yeah.
So, okay. How does limited deck building differ from constructed deck building? That is something I want to dial in on here. I think it'll lead to important tips.
Yeah.
So your goal in limited should not be to execute combos. You're not trying to find a ton of synergy or even really build a cohesive deck, right? Like, you're not going to be able to build a deck full of 7 dwarfs cards, right? You're not going to be able to have a whole bounce package. You're not going to have a deck that is fully cohesive within itself, right? It's not going to be this well-oiled machine. Instead, you just want to concentrate on characters that will win you the board.
Yep, exactly.
So stats are really good in limited.
You want those big bodyguard guys, right? Like those big tanks or things that quest for a bunch they're just going to get you miles in the game.
Right. Stats are at a premium. Like, for instance, Monstro from the new set. He is a 5 cost, 5 strength, 6 willpower, quests for 1. Just the most possible stats at that cost slot. So he's an amazing limited card. I don't think you'd put him in a constructed deck very often, right? Like,
right.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a competitive constructed deck that's like, oh yeah, Monstro's the jam right here.
I'm playing Monstro.
Get that whale in there. Then on the other hand, look at a card like Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom. That card is really interesting in constructed. I think you can make a hyper aggro list that's trying to get to 20 as fast as possible, and you put 4 of those in there, and because everything in your deck is saying, I want to get to 20 lore on turn 5 or whatever, it becomes a really powerful card to have that unstoppable lore gain. But then in limited, where everything isn't as well tuned, where nothing is cohesive, where you can't really build an efficient aggro deck that's going really fast, that's a terrible card.
Right. An uninkable 2-cost gain 2 is like just kind of balances out as nothing.
It doesn't
limited.
gain you the board.
Right.
It has no board presence, and going from, say, 9 to 11 lore at the price of 2 ink and a card spent, it doesn't get you any closer to either stopping your opponent or enabling you to take control of the board and questing out.
Exactly. Right.
So that's just an example, right? Those are 2 examples of cards that are so different in constructed versus limited. But what are you looking for overall when you build a deck, Katie? Because you've won, 3 or 4 limited tournaments at this point?
Yeah.
In the few months that we've been doing them. How do you do it? What are you looking for? What are you trying to do with your deck when you're building your 40 card limited deck?
When I'm building a limited deck, I'm looking for that curve, right? You're looking for a perfect curve. You're looking to be able to go turn 1, play a thing. Turn 2, play a dude. Turn 3, play a dude. Turn 4, play a dude, and just make a board.
And preferably you're playing the most powerful thing you possibly can on each of those turns, right? Like a well-statted 3-drop on turn 3, a well-statted 4-drop on turn 4.
Exactly. Good, solid, reliable characters on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least, right? You don't want to go too high. You don't want your curve to go out to 10 necessarily. You typically want to keep it a little small, a nice little rainbow for your deck, and you want to stay away from uninkables.
And what do you mean by a rainbow?
So you're looking for that perfect bell curve, right? So you don't want as many 1s as you have 2s. You have a little bit more 2s. You have a little bit more 3s than you had 2s. And you have maybe about the same 4s, maybe a little bit less 4, right? You're aiming for the tip of that curve, the most cards that you have to be 3 or 4s. And then you have a little bit less 5 than you had 4, a little bit less 6 than you had 5. If you go to 7, maybe you have 1 if it's really bomb and you think you can do it for some reason. I've made those decisions before where I stick a King Louis in my deck and I never play him. But if I did, it'd be really good. Yeah, so you're just looking for that curve and obviously staying away from uninkables so that you don't get trapped. You don't ever want to get trapped without being able to play something because that's, sudden death in limited for sure.
Mm-hmm. And so we like to go by the rule of thumb of having, 13, 14 uninkables as a baseline in constructed. That's what I like to see anyway for most decks. In limited, similarly, you want to be, under a quarter of the cards in your deck as uninkable. So a max of maybe 8. I think 8 is kind of pushing it. And if you can keep it to 6 or 7, all the better.
Right, exactly.
You don't draw as many cards in limited, which is why you were making that point about inking up to 7, right? Like playing a 7-drop at all is a decision because very often you do want to stop inking once you hit 6 ink, maybe even 5 ink. And why is that? Let's talk about some of the best cards in limited. What makes a card really, really strong? Because there are these kind of 3 axes that you want to be looking at.
So the perfect card in a limited game would be something that magically has draw, has removal, and is evasive.
Okay.
You're looking for those 3 key things.
Okay, those are the 3 axes along which we want to push, right?
Right.
We're looking for anything that draws you cards, that gets you advantage, because that's hard to come by. We're looking for anything that removes your opponent's characters easily, because that's really hard to come by. And we're looking for anything that's evasive, because those are similarly rare. If you can push on each of those levers, right? If you can add some draw to your deck, add some removal to your deck, and add some evasive options to your deck, then you're going to have a strong limited format pile there.
Right, because the odds that your opponent also got all the evasive answers and draw and removal is low. So if you have a really good evasive, the odds are not high that anyone else also has a really good evasive to get rid of your evasive, and that they'd have it on the board at the same time. Because again, you're not playing with 4 of each card. So even if they do have a bomb evasive to take out your evasive, they might not draw it the whole game.
Exactly. So there you have it, right? We have these core tenets, right? Build a deck with a nice, even curve centered on the 3 and 4 drop slot. Have a low number of uninkables. You're shooting for 8 and under as a baseline. And keep things principled. Don't put in too much flash and trash, right? You're looking for nice, solid, beefy characters. And then if you can, try to push on these 3 levers of draw, removal, and evasive tech. Those will help quite a bit. I think about a card in Limited that ended up winning me a game one time, which was the Plank. It was a set 3 card, and it allowed you to banish a hero character for the cost of 5. And now in Constructed, that's a high price to pay. It's uninkable, right? But when you're scrambling to find answers to some of your opponent's best cards, sometimes paying 3 and then 2, so it's 5 total, to banish a character with the plank is exactly what you need to do. It's so hard to come by those tools that are removal, or they are evasive, or they are card draw, that you have to look in some unturned over spaces.
Now, looking in Shimmering Skies, what are some cards that you think are going to be the best or have been the best in the limited format here?
Yeah, so we're going to highlight commons and uncommons because those are the cards that you're most likely to see. These are things that it would behoove you to watch out for when you're building your deck. If you see them in a pack in draft, then you probably want to take these cards. We just wanted to go through and highlight a couple for every color, just briefly.
Good use of behoove.
Hey, perfect score on the SAT.
Now you've got a perfect score on the sealed AT.
Yeah.
Get it?
That's what I was talking about, the sealed
sorry.
aptitude test. All right, so Maid Marian is an amber character. She costs 6. She has really good stats. She's a 4/5. And she has this ability. She gives a character -5 strength for a whole turn until your next turn. So in the limited format, she's really strong because her stats are good. She's a big character. She's hard to remove. She does good things on the board. And she can enable you to make a really favorable trade where you are removing an opponent's character without losing one of your own. So a really strong limited card. And kind of a prototypical limited card. She'd be kind of, I don't know, boring and constructed. You kind of look over her. But in the limited format, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those big characters that have a relevant ability that allow you to fight for the board aggressively.
Yeah, here.
How about you, Katie? You have an amber card that you really like?
Yeah, so there's Invited to the Ball. Invited to the Ball, just to fill you all in, if you have not seen this, perhaps in the constructed world. It is a 2-cost uninkable action. It says, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, put revealed character cards into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order.
So why is that good in limited?
So it's great card draw, right, which we talked about being a plus. And you are more likely to be playing a deck that's mostly characters, right? You have 40 cards in your deck. You probably have like 35 characters.
Yeah, I think that's good advice just as a baseline. Like, you want to play characters in limited.
Right, and this is letting you put those characters into your hand. And also, no one whiffs twice in a row. So you're not going to whiff on both draws from this card.
Right. It'd be really hard to build a limited deck that didn't have at least 30 characters in it, right? So statistically, you're going to hit definitely one, and most of the time, the vast majority of the time, if you're building a limited deck correctly, I guess, and I use that for lack of a better word because it's hard to say what's correct and what's not correct, but if you've built your deck correctly, you're going to hit 2 cards, and paying 2 to draw 2 is very good. We pay 3 to draw 2 with friends on the other side quite often, so I love that. Invited to the Ball.
Yeah, really cool card. What about you?
Let's go to Amethyst. Let's talk about the Knock. The Knock is a 6-cost 5/5, quests for 1. He moves 2 damage from one character to an opposing character when he enters play. So again, another big body with a relevant ability that helps you control the board when it enters play. It is just a big beat stick character, and that's what you want in this game.
Yeah, I love that. Knock, very underused.
I did have a draft where I got past 3 knocks. I won that draft.
Knock, yoink, knock,
Yep.
yoink. The knock came a knockin'.
You sure did. How about you? Any Amethyst cards you want to highlight?
Yeah, a great Amethyst limited is Bruni. Beyond being adorable,
Look at that smile.
look at him.
Aww.
So he's a 4-cost inkable card. He is a 2/2 Storyborn ally, quest for 2, and he has evasive. So we already know, dear listener, that as a 2/2 that quest for 2, that's pretty good. And then being evasive, that's real good. And then he also has an ability that says when this character is banished, you may draw a card. He rocks.
He's pushing on 2 of those levers that we highlighted earlier, right? He is both card draw and evasive all wrapped up into one. A fantastic limited card. That's the kind of card that you instantly put in your deck and you don't think about again. Just amazing.
Yep, love Bruni. Bruni all the way.
I want to mention Gale, too, another Amethyst card. Gale is a 3-cost character that quests for 2, and when Gale is banished in a challenge, it returns to your hand. So
Right.
it's like card advantage, right? It's like draw. It's kind of like saying when it's banished, you draw a card. It's just that it comes off the board and goes into your hand instead of coming off the top of your deck. So that kind of repeatable ability, right, where you can plop Gale down in the late game every single turn, and your opponent really can't do too much unless they can remove it with an action. It's really, really powerful. Let's go on to Emerald. We've got You're Welcome, another great card for limited. This is going to kind of go against some of the advice that we've talked about because it is a little bit situational. It's not a body on the board, but it's so incredibly flexible that I think it warrants inclusion in any limited deck.
Yeah, I mean, people are losing their minds about You're Welcome across the board.
Right. It's a good constructed card, and it's also a good limited card. Really, really flexible. So You're Welcome is the 4-cost song in Emerald that allows you to shuffle any character, location, or item into its owner's deck, shuffle it in there, and then they draw 2 cards. So you can use that to get rid of an opponent's problem location or problem character, right? And maintain tempo on the board. Or if you need the cards in the late game, say you draw a 1-drop on turn 7 and you're like, well, this isn't going to do too much. You can plop that 1-drop on the board, sing this, draw 2 more cards.
Yeah.
Just super flexible. And so if you're going to have removal that is flexible, that's all the better because it's really hard to come by.
Yeah, flexible removal is insane in this game, period.
Another limited card that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, let's hop over to the Ruby Land for a second. I'm going to highlight Daisy Duck. So this is not the famous Daisy Duck. This is not the famous Amber Daisy Duck.
Not Donald's date that everybody's talking about. Everybody's paying $18 for the super rare.
This is Daisy Duck's Spotless Food Fighter. So she's a Ruby card. She's a 2-cost inkable Storyborn hero. Important here that Daisy is a hero. In many other places, she's only an ally.
She's often an ally, yeah. That's really cool.
Actually hadn't realized that until just now.
She is heroic in that food fight. She is laying waste with so many mashed potato balls and ladle catapults, and she's going to town.
Chucking a cupcake at somebody. And she's called the Spotless Food Fighter, so.
She's spotless. So that means like she's laying waste. I mean, she is just covering folks in cupcake frosting, and she has yet to be hit.
No blood on her hands.
Which makes sense because of her ability. What is her ability?
She's evasive. That's what she is.
We like evasives in limited.
Yeah, she's a 2/2, quest for 1, evasive. Amazing.
You know what's really cool about Daisy in particular in the Shimmering Skies limited format is all of the 2-drop characters are really weak. Like, there aren't a lot of good 2-drops.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you can find a Daisy and fit her into your curve, and that's what you're doing on turn 2, that's really strong.
Yeah, because again, as we've said before, the odds are very low. Your opponent's going to have something evasive on their board by turn 2.
Yeah, grab Daisy if you see her.
What about you?
Let's talk about the Emerald Chromacon real quick.
Ooh.
We're kind of jumping between colors a bit, but whatever. This is...
Whatever.
The Emerald Chromacon is a 3-cost uninkable, that is a cost, item. And it says that if one of your characters is banished during your opponent's turn, you can return any character to their owner's hand.
Dang.
This card has the potential to completely lock down the game. If you're ahead on the board and you have an Emerald Chromacon out, you're basically saying your opponent cannot catch up, ever.
Right.
It's extremely hard if you have a lock on the board and an Emerald Chromacon for your opponent to do anything.
Yeah.
Because then you can just quest. If your opponent decides to remove your characters, they're going to remove their own characters in the process, and then you can just thud down more the next turn, keep on questing, and win the game that way. Incredibly powerful, and only exacerbates the need for board control in the format. If you are behind and your opponent plays an Emerald Chromacon, you will probably lose.
Yeah, and Emerald Chromacon is definitely one that you would poo-poo upon first look and not think that it's a great card for limited.
Yeah, it's a little unwieldy, right? Like the 3-cost, the uninkable, you're taking a turn off of playing a character maybe to play this instead. maybe you overlook this because a lot of the Chromacons aren't strong. This is one that is very strong. This is one that you should not let pass by, because if you get this in your mulligan and you're going first, you are hard-pressed to lose that game. It is a slam dunk if you are ahead, if you are going first. So, there are always exceptions to these rules, right? We're saying like, oh, play the biggest character you can every turn. But there are some of these cards in the format that are game winners. They are bomb cards, as they're commonly referred to in card gaming circles. So know what the bombs are, at the very least. Know what the very, very best, 10 cards are in Shimmering Skies in Limited, and make sure that if you see them, you grab them.
Make that bomb.
Any other ones you want to highlight, Katie?
All right, hopping back over to Sapphire Land for a second here. The next card is King Candy, Sweet Abomination. So this is big King Candy. This is like he's half bug King Candy.
Very creepy.
A controversial pick here because this is a 5-cost uninkable card. But remember, it's not against the rules to play an uninkable card. You just don't want to play a lot of them. So this is one that if you see it, you'd want to make the choice to have this be one of your uninkables. And it's only 5. It's okay.
It's not
that
7.
expensive.
It's not 9.
Yeah.
Yep.
So King Candy, Sweet Abomination. He's a 3/3, quest for 2, Floodborn Villain King Racer. He shifts for 3, so if you are blessed enough to have another King Candy, you could play him for 3. He has the ability Changing the Code. When you play this character, you may draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck.
Why is that good, Katie?
So it allows you to move through your deck, right? You're able to churn through cards that you have in your hand, put some back. You do not have to put back one of the 2 cards that you draw. That's the important distinction here. So he lets you draw 2, and if you really like those 2 more than some dumb uninkable that's been hanging out in your hand, you can put that at the bottom of your deck, right? You can just essentially, discard it.
I hate those dumb uninkables just hanging out in your hand,
Yeah, so
taunting you.
stupid.
Those dumb uninkables.
Like King Candy. Wait
a second.
No, but he's really great, and he quests for 2. So
He's a decent body, and then he also pushes on one of those levers that we talked about. He draws you cards, which is so hard to come by. To find an uncommon that's going to quest for 2, be a presence on the board that has to get answered, and in the process of playing him is going to give you some card advantage and some card selection. Really, really strong and limited.
Super fun. What about you? What else do you have to point out
I
here?
really want to quickly highlight Basil, Practice Detective, because he's also in the Sapphire color, but I think he's easy to overlook. He's a 1-drop. He is 2 strength, 1 willpower, quests for 1, and he has, crucially, support.
Ding, 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 ding.
So, 1 willpower versus 2 willpower. That difference doesn't really matter so much in Limited very often. Usually, you're going to be able to quest with this Basil, give 2 strength to something else, and then use that other character to trade up, which is huge. I think about something like Hey Hey, like the Amber Hey Hey, which was fair in Limited. Like a decent card, a 1/2 that quests for 1, it's a 1-drop, has support. This is better than that, because it's going to potentially trade up itself, or at least not get traded into by an opposing 2/2. And he's going to enable a trade up with his support ability. So just a really, really strong 1-drop. I would venture to say one of the strongest, if not the strongest 1-drop in all of Limited for Shimmering Skies.
Yeah, really strong card.
That's not including some of the uninkable 1-drops. Like, obviously, those have some really strong abilities. But for the inkable 1-drops in Shimmering Skies, I don't think you can do better than Basil.
Yeah.
Any last cards? Any steel cards? Steel is kind of weak in Shimmering Skies, so we're kind of hard-pressed, but do you have one?
Yeah, Steel's kind of weak overall. It's a little bit sad. I've got Kronk, Unlicensed Investigator here. So this is a 2-cost 1/4. Alone, those stats are cool. 2-cost inkable 1/4. He's got a nice butt. He's going to live on the board for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's not common that your opponent will have something on 2 or 3 that can kill something for 4 in one shot, right?
Sure.
Or banish something for 4, pardon me. Kronk also has Challenger +1. So he's a 1/4, quest for 1, and he has Challenger +1. So when he goes to hit other things, if your opponent has played a 1-cost 2/2 on their first turn, and you play this in your second turn, you can then go around and gank that thing like nothing.
Again, an easy to overlook card. It doesn't look flashy, But these are the kinds of cards that allow you to build up incremental advantages turn after turn. You can use your 2-drop to potentially banish a 1 or 2-drop on your opponent's side. He'll stick around and do some extra damage.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about the best cards in Limited.
Yeah, some ones to look out for, at least.
What are ones that we really need to look out for, though?
Ah, the traps. These are cards that they're much better in constructed. And I just wanted to briefly highlight a couple of these because I think you could fall into the trap of thinking that these are going to be really strong and going to help you in Limited. And in fact, they will not. And you should probably avoid them.
Yes, please tell us what to beware.
So 2 of the best constructed cards in the set are Daisy Duck, Donald's Date, and Pete, Games Referee.
Yes.
They are both featured often in the same deck in Steel Song right now. I think that's a really strong deck and constructed. They synergize really well. You're gonna quest, and then shut down your opponent's ability to respond to it with the Pete, right? But in Limited, these are absolutely traps. Daisy Duck is not going to have enough other aggressive cards to support her, and so you'll just be feeding your opponent character after character after character, and the rest of your deck won't be able to go quickly enough to compensate for the advantage you're dishing out.
Right.
And then similarly, Pete is a card that isn't going to have an effect very much. There aren't that many relevant actions taken or played in Limited, and especially in Shimmering Skies, frankly. So Pete ends up being this vanilla 3-cost 3/3. That's not bad. That's totally fine. But most of the time, you'd rather play a vanilla 3-cost 3-strength 4 willpower character, and you'll be better served by doing so.
Exactly. That's definitely a trap. That looks tempting, but you should not.
We talked about gathering knowledge and wisdom being a bit of a trap before. Amethyst Chromacon is another one. To refresh your memory, it's a 2-cost item that when you exert it, it draws both you and your opponent a card. In Constructed, there are ways to counteract the advantage you're giving your opponent. Maybe you're going really, really quickly, and so it doesn't matter because your opponent already has 9 or 10 cards in their hand, so feeding them another one along with your Daisy, it doesn't really matter. But in Limited, where both of you have very few draw cards, when you play an Amethyst Chromacon, you're spending that card. Now you're down a card. The first time you use it, you're even, but your opponent is up a card. Yeah? So maybe if you're ahead, I could see a scenario where Amethyst Chromacon is useful to stay ahead, but overall, you're going to be hard-pressed to find occasions to use it effectively.
Wow, good warnings all. Any others?
One last one, just Vision of the Future. I'd say is a card to maybe watch out for. It's a 2-cost inkable action that lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put one in your hand. The discrepancies in power level between cards in your deck in Limited is not high. The gap between your best card and your worst card isn't super huge. So filtering and looking for a specific card at the cost of 2 ink isn't always a great deal. I know it's kind of like card draw, and maybe it lets you put a really expensive card that you really want to get onto the board into your hand. That said, the tempo loss of spending 2 to play this and not gain any cards in hand is a cost that you need to consider. So again, just be really wary of the tempo losses, especially considering the fact that there aren't any great comeback mechanics in Limited. You don't have Be Prepared to just play and wipe your opponent's board and then, play the great character that you got off of your Vision of the Future. Instead, just try to play solidly to the board as many characters as you possibly can, as powerful characters as you possibly can every turn.
Love that advice.
So yeah, that's our kind of Limited primer, We didn't go into super great depth, but I hope that you picked up a couple of tips from all of this information.
And this dish was delicious.
You know what? I think it's a menu that maybe they should keep around. I know it's only here for a limited time, but maybe they should keep it around.
Do you want a baked Alaska? Hey!
What?
You ordered us a baked Alaska?
I wanted to know what it is. I always hear about it. It's like a fire thing, right?
Oh my God, it's on fire though. We can't eat that.
It's gonna no. It's on fire. They're gonna put it out. Look, watch this.
Oh, I hate it. Oh no. Oh God. Oh.
You see? Look at that. It's not on fire no more.
All right. I'll eat it.
All right, look at that. It's gonna be delicious. You haven't even tried it. You say you don't like it.
All right, I'll try. I love you.
I love you.
Wow, they got a baked
They got
Alaska.
it. Oh, yeah, look at that over there. See, that's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. If you have baked Alaska, bring me your dessert menu because I want it.
Yeah. Here's your baked Alaska.
What do you got?
Nothing to do with Alaska.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
So, have you ever, Brett, wished that there was a Disney park a little bit closer to us?
Yes. Emphatically, yes.
Me too. What if they just built a Disney park somewhere up here in the beautiful Northeast?
I would live there.
Right.
I would move there.
We'd move there.
Yeah, it's too hot in Florida for me to live there, but if it was in the Northeast, I'd go right there. I'd
We'd
live
be there.
Yeah,
yes. So there are some problems with that, right? Can you think of any possible problems with making a park up here in the Northeast?
yeah. Hard to run a roller coaster in the snow?
Yep, we have the winter. Yep, that's a problem. We also are pretty dense up here, right? Like densely packed in terms of people. There's not a lot of flat, open land like you have in California and Florida.
Sure, yeah. Appalachia does some stuff.
Indeed. So for all those reasons, there's never been a Disney theme park up here in the Northeast.
But what if there was, though?
But in the 1990s,
Oh!
everything was going to change. I present to you Disney's America. Dear listener, if you're driving, you might want to pull over. This is a lot of information to take. All right, the 90s. They're a heyday for Disney. They're the Disney Renaissance, right? 1989, they release Little Mermaid. They release Aladdin. They release Beauty and the Beast. They release Lion King. They're hitting it. Hits.
Yeah, that's our golden age. That's our childhoods right there, right? The 90s, yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so they're crushing it and they're thinking what?
They're thinking, let's keep going. So they announce in 1993, Disney's America. It's going to be in Haymarket, Virginia. Ever heard of it?
Nope.
Not much there. It's where Manassas is.
Ah, yeah.
You've heard of Manassas?
I certainly have as a reader of Shelby Foote's Civil War
Yes.
histories.
Yes, a hot Civil War spot. They were going to plop Disney's America right there. About 30 miles from D.C., right on Route 66. Very American of them, very Disney, right, to stay with that kind of Americana theme. It was going to be a park based around American history, right? So essentially like Liberty Square in Magic Kingdom as a whole park.
I want that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I mean, to us from here, from the Northeast where everything kind of is that still? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of buildings that are still from
Yeah,
then.
You
Like,
can walk the Freedom Trail in Boston. That's kind of like the Disney of Boston is the Freedom Trail.
right, we could drive an hour and go do that.
Yeah.
People in Virginia can do that too, but still, Disney's like, nah, we're going to build Disney's America. The legend is that Michael Eisner went to Colonial Williamsburg with his family and became like obsessed with this idea. Was in Colonial Williamsburg and was like, oh my God, it's the next Disney park. Now keep in mind, Disney was big into expanding into other parks right now, right? They were moving across the sea, across the country. They had just started making Euro Disney at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, Michael Eisner goes to the governor of Virginia. He says, hey man, this is going to be a great idea. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to bring all kinds of jobs into your town and your state. I'm going to bring all kinds of tourists here. Like, it's going to be only good for Virginia.
Okay, and Michael Eisner is the CEO of Disney at this point. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Michael Eisner, I'm a fan of. Now, he's, hot and cold on a lot of people. But I think he did a lot of great things. I think he's responsible for, putting the artists first and making that Disney Renaissance that we all benefited from.
Okay.
But anyways, we can go deep dive into him later.
Yeah, he's a whole other dessert course.
Whole other baked Alaska. So the governor of Virginia is like, heck yeah, I love this. I'm going to cut through any of that red tape for you. You got this. Like, nothing's going to get in our way. I don't care what we have to do. And now what we have to do is like billions of dollars in fixing pipes and fixing roads and making the infrastructure something that they can whatever, right?
Right, because Disney's as much about parking lots as it is about Cinderella's castle, right? You need all of that infrastructure or else you have nothing, really.
Exactly. So it's going to be tough. And this is going to be smaller than Disneyland and Disney World, right? This is like a small little park. So public perception from the beginning is not good about this.
Uh-oh.
I mean, they named it Disney's America, which doesn't feel great. You know, kind of feels like they're saying Disney owns America. Not great. But anyways.
Overreaching, perhaps.
Yes. So this man, Bob Weiss, who I guess was the Disney senior vice president in the 90s. I don't know who he is. He's done some stuff. I'm sure he signed off on a lot of things, right? He's just like a business guy.
An old white guy.
An old white man named Bob.
Okay.
Who just lived in an office, right? Michael Eisner, by comparison, right, is like a guy who was an English major and he likes art and he likes theater and stuff and he like is kind of on the ground and like knows how to talk to people. Bob does not. So Bob is left to his own devices and goes out to the press and says the following. Again, if you have not pulled over, it's a good time to do that.
I'll read this for you.
Please do.
This is not a Pollyanna view of America. We want to make you a Civil War soldier. We want to make you feel what it was like to be a slave or what it was like to escape through the Underground Railroad. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. So, you know, understandably tough.
Talk about tone deaf. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's tough.
Talk about like a complete lack of understanding about generations of horrible, horrible trauma among like the worst that humans have ever experienced in human history. Yowza.
Yeah, come to Disney's America. You can feel like it.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I mean, you know, Michael Eisner tried to walk it back and essentially was like, Bob Weiss can't talk. Don't blame him. He's stupid. And they never let him talk to the press again, obviously. But this is, you know, not good. And the spirit of it is that they were trying to make it, you know, they wanted to address the fact that slavery existed in the history of the United States, right? And be like, we're going to take things seriously. It's like a serious living museum. But people took that to mean like,
we're going to turn slavery into a theme park experience.
Yes. And we're going to sell like, you know, toy slave boats.
Not only is it not attractive in terms of like wanting to go and do that, but it also just completely trivializes the plight of millions of people.
Yeah.
So
trivializes slavery.
Yeah,
you know?
pretty
and
bad.
That's tough. So anyways, people are upset, right? Normal people and historians. A scary group to be upset. Especially if you're building a theme park about history. Specifically, there was this group of historians called Protect Historic America, a scary title of historians as well. This included David McCullough, who you may have read in high school, dear listener, if you took a history class.
Love David McCullough of 1776 and John Adams fame. Those are the two I've read anyway. I know he wrote some on like FDR, but he's the man.
Yeah. Another scary person, in my opinion. And he called the park a potential commercial blitzkrieg.
Ooh.
Yeah, so people, they were not happy, right? So this is only in the span of a few months, right? We're still like 1993, almost 1994 right now. State legislature in Virginia is like, no. we don't want you to build this park. Please, stay out of Virginia. Virginia's small. California and Florida are big. We are small. We have plenty of things. We have, you know, Colonial Williamsburg, which you visited. Like, can you not? Do you mind? And that specific town that they were going to build this park in didn't want to become a theme park town, right? They didn't want to become Anaheim. They didn't want to be a bunch of hotels and a bunch of fast food places and a bunch of whatever. They didn't want all that. So everybody's rooting against Disney's America at this point. It's not looking good.
No.
The Senate gets involved in 1994.
Like the United States Senate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's going well.
It's going really well so far for Disney. You reflect back now on that governor being like, you ain't gonna have no problems, sir. I'm gonna cut through all that red tape for you. And the Senate's like, can you not, though? Like, could you just maybe not build this? Michael Eisner has some thoughts on this. Michael Eisner is well-spoken. Again, like I said, an English major. He says,
Disney's America not only will not replace historic sites, but rather will add to their luster by enthusing our guests about events that occurred there and the people who took part in them. We are confident that our project will actually encourage more people to visit historic areas, and we believe our presentation of the American heritage can make a significant national contribution to the important cause of historic preservation. We plan to use all of the tools available to us: filmmaking, animation, environments, music, interactive media, live interpretation, to bring the American experience to life. We are working with historians and other experts to make Disney's America an engaging and genuine encounter with America's past. Together, we have identified some common themes that run through the American experience: our persistent resistance to injustice, our quest for tolerance and inclusion, our history of rising to challenges, our faith in the promise of the future, and our belief that ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things. We believe that every person, particularly the children, who can touch history and sense the emotions of a time or event, will be impelled to learn more. This is the vision and purpose of Disney's America.
Yeah, so beautiful, right? What should have been said to the press from the beginning? It's very Disney. It's very, come here to feel the passion of years and a beautiful nation that can do great things and can be better if we empower our children to learn from the past and blah, 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 blah.
And
right?
runs directly in the face of the former comments from Bob Weiss, saying we want this to be about overcoming intolerance and about inclusion and celebrating that aspect of America. So completely the opposite of what Bob Weiss was talking about.
Right. And Bob Weiss is clearly touching on the we don't want to ignore that slavery happened. We're not going to avoid it. We're not going to take it out of our history. But the way he said it made it sound like there was going to be a ride about it,
Yeah.
So not great. Now, Michael Eisner's working real hard. He's sweating to bring this backwards, right? No coinkydink that in about a year he's going to have a massive heart attack. Anyways,
Yikes.
He's working real hard to pull this back around. It's 1994. They're about to release Lion King, right? He's pulling this back. He takes historians with him, possibly David McCullough. I don't know. I like to imagine that he did. To Epcot. He takes them to the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. And he says, come on over. Come to the American Adventure. Now, have you seen the American Adventure show in Epcot?
I don't think I have, because it's been closed, right? The past couple times we've gone, that there hasn't been any showings of it, right? It's that in that America building in Epcot.
Yeah.
In the back, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was closed the last 2 times that we went.
Yeah. It's been closed, and there's been a lot of online outrage about it being closed because so many people love it.
I would like to see it. I have no idea what's in there.
So there hasn't been a lot of outrage. Nobody likes it.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
terrible show.
Oh, well, I guess I'm not missing anything.
Really not. Nobody cares that it's closed. Nobody knows if it's closed or open. I shouldn't say terrible, right? I like it. I'm more on the nerd leading end anyways, right? I like listening to Mark Twain talk about America for 20 minutes in the air conditioning. But people who are going to Disney World and enjoying Epcot don't want it. It's got a couple cool animatronics, Mark Twain being one of them. Benjamin Franklin comes up and talks. It's, it's cool. It's fine. But anyways, he takes these historians to Epcot. They watch the show and they're like, boo, hate it. This park's gonna stink. He goes, okay. Takes them to Magic Kingdom to the Hall of Presidents. They go, that was good.
They like the Hall of Presidents?
They like the Hall of Presidents.
Okay.
So, I think a typical reaction of a Disney park guest anyways. But he's really trying to woo them, right? He's trying to get them on his side to be like, come on, support me, David McCullough. Say it's cool.
I have a quick David McCullough tangent.
Please do.
About, historians getting stepped on.
Yeah.
So when my sister was graduating from Suffolk University, her commencement address was delivered by Robert Kraft, the billionaire owner of the New England Patriots.
Boo.
At the same time, now we like the Patriots, so we don't want to boo them too hard.
Sorry. Not booing the Patriots, booing Robert Kraft.
Okay. So at the same time, David McCullough is receiving an honorary doctorate from the university. So he's seated up on stage the whole time, this brilliant man who's delivered some of the most important works of American history of the past 30 years, right?
Right.
And Robert Kraft proceeds to give the worst speech I've ever heard. It was trite, it was irrelevant, it was poorly delivered, and David McCullough is just sitting there with his arms crossed off to the side while this is all unfolding. And so I feel for David McCullough sometimes
What a nightmare.
Yeah. Anyway, so how did David McCullough come away from the Hall of Presidents?
Well, I mean, like you said, right? These are people who have been pushed to the side and ignored. And I think that's where Michael Eisner's coming from, right? To be like, come on, I want your help. But I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know everything that happened in those closed rooms, but I would imagine it would have been a smart idea to maybe include David McCullough in this planning, right? Or like include some of the big historians in our country in the building of this park. And I don't know that happened. But anyways, in Disney as a whole, like I said, they've just built Euro Disney in Paris. It's not going well.
Oh, no.
It's a bit of a financial failure. That's its own story. But that, Disneyland Paris is doing fine now. It's renamed to Disneyland Paris from when it was Euro Disney, etc. There were a lot of problems with it. It was more so that they were plopping it into a culture that they didn't totally understand than the park necessarily failing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, they're bleeding money a little bit. So Disney pulls back and they sell some of this land for Disney's America, right? They're kind of letting it slowly die. They're like, oh, well, I guess we'll just have less land. So they sell a little bit off. And then they sell more. And by the end of 1995, it's just gone.
Oh.
Totally gone. At the same time, back in California, Knott's Berry Farm is selling land. They're selling some of their park. And Disney tries to buy that to make Disney's America again. And Knott's Berry Farm says, we hate that idea. We're not going to sell it anymore. So nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. But we can be very thankful to Disney's America because they've given us many rides.
What?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Well, I will tell you more. Many of these rides and, future projects, blueprints, etc., made their way into Disney California Adventure.
Interesting.
I know, right? So Disney California Adventure opened in 2001. It included rides like Soarin'. You can thank the Phoenicians for that. You can thank Disney's America for that.
Love Soarin'.
Grizzly River Run, which is going to be a Lewis and Clark expedition raft ride.
Okay.
And California Screamin', which was going to be like an old-fashioned state fair kind of roller coaster.
And it does look like that. Okay, I see that.
Yeah. So Disney's America never happened, but we're fortunate enough to have something called the internet.
Ooh.
So we know a little bit about what it might have been like.
Cool.
So this information is from a brochure that I think is like $50 on eBay right now.
Wow. Okay. So
Just
a
to
real
get the brochure.
artifact. Yeah.
Yes. In the brochure, it shows you what all the different planned themed areas were and some of the attraction that they were going to put in them. So there were going to be 9 lands, and they're all from different eras of the United States. One of them, Crossroads USA, exists in the era of 1800 to 1850 or so. It was kind of the hub of the park, right? That's where you enter.
That's the main street, kind of.
Right. You enter under a train station, much like you do in Disneyland and in Magic Kingdom. It was going to have a show called The Muppets Take America.
Oh, yeah. I want to see The Muppets Take America.
Me too. In my mind, it's that show that Sam the American Eagle wants to do at the end of the Muppets show in Disney Hollywood Studios, and I hope that it is.
Or even the short show that they do have in the Magic Kingdom, The Great Moments in History, but just the American parts. Yeah.
Yes, very good. They were also going to have like some kind of Roots-themed stuff. Roots, the miniseries about slavery.
Okay.
So again, we're thankful it never happened. They had a Civil War fort. So they would have Civil War reenactments in this open field with a nighttime spectacular. A nighttime spectacular.
The Civil War, nighttime spectacular. Wait a second, they didn't make this theme park?
And this, it goes into details about how they made, a man-made, lake like they do in Disneyland for Fantasmic, but it's for the Civil War.
The fireworks exploding like so many cannonballs over Fort Sumter.
Oh my gosh. It was like the Battle of the Monitor and the Merrimack or something.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. So anyways, good thing that didn't happen.
This is like one of those things where you wonder about how things get this far in the corporate world.
Yes.
At some point there needs to be the person who says no, this is a bad idea. And if you don't have that, it just kind of keeps snowballing and snowballing.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, they had this whole section that was called, a whole land called We the People, that was from, took place in 1870, 1930. And it was just Ellis Island.
Uh-huh.
But like a restaurant that is Ellis Island.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what's fun about that. Yes, right? And like Virginia, you're not like super far from Ellis Island. Like, could just go to Ellis Island if you're like taking a vacation. Like, I don't know.
Right. Like, there's a difference between going to a museum and trying to attain a greater understanding of the plight of millions and millions of immigrants, right? And like having their names shortened and like not knowing where they were going to live and being, ushered through into ghettos. And then having it turned into a theme park where you, like, I don't know, get to see, like, what the turnstiles are like. Like, I don't know what they were expecting from that.
Yeah, and the restaurant end of it, I'm like, maybe the turn is, like, you try foods from different countries. Like, that's, like, the idea.
Uh-huh.
But I'm also a little bit like, if I cough, do I have to leave? Like Ellis Island?
Yeah, right.
I'm like, what is this? Are there
Right.
potatoes? Because of the potato famine that made a lot of people go to Ellis Island? I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, there's a lot going on. Victory Field is like a 1930, 1945 little area. World War II. Woo! There's no reenactments of World War II, though, thankfully.
Whew.
But it's like an airfield with hangars, and they were going to have some kind of like virtual reality flight thing, which becomes Soarin', which we're thankful for. But that's, that was going to be it.
Yikes. I mean, I'm trying to get in the head of Michael Eisner here and like see what he was seeing. And I think it's a noble goal to say we want to investigate and celebrate American history and try to invite our citizens to attain a greater understanding of their country.
Right.
But I can also see how quickly that becomes reductive and insensitive.
I mean, I think it's just an impossible thing, right? I agree that, like, I really like his idea of it, and I think that their hearts were in the right place, but you can't blend Disney with something like that. Disney is synonymous with entertainment and fun and silly and lighthearted. So you can't be like, yeah, but we're going to make it serious and not make fun of it,
right?
Like, it's just, it's impossible to do. Like, you wouldn't have Goofy give a speech at a presidential inauguration.
Right.
It just doesn't blend, right?
Yeah.
It's never meant to blend. That's why this never happened.
And here we have a special anniversary address at Appomattox Courthouse by Goofy.
Yeah, it's just like, it just didn't work. And that's okay. It wasn't meant to be. We weren't meant to have one up here in the Northeast. We're too serious up here. There's too much weird, serious stuff that happened. We're all too crammed in. There's too many mountains. It was never meant to be.
And everybody would freeze their butts off.
That was another thing, too. They initially thought, okay, we'll have to close for 2 months in the winter. And then they found out, no, we have to close for 4 months in the winter. Those fools.
Like the Californians being like, it gets cold out there, doesn't it? Do you think it gets cold? Would people not like that?
Close for a couple months, right?
Like, when does it get cold? December? We close in December.
January, for good measure.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, you'd have to close from November to May. But good luck.
There it is. Disney's America.
Yeah. Bet you didn't know about Diz.
I didn't, and I'm not sure I even believe you. That's how wild it is.
I know. And if you Google it, you can go deep into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's you offered too much detail for me to really not believe you, but I'm just saying it's pretty incredible. Like, my jaw's a little bit on the floor. Are you full?
Whew, I am full. Baked Alaska was not what I thought it was going to be. It was tasty.
If you could just, roll me onto a cart or something, I'm like absolutely stuffed.
How about I roll you onto a cart and I give you these mints that I got on a super sale, on a big summer blowout sale.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, you have made a beautiful dream card. Tell us all about this.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is Oaken, humble shopkeeper. Woohoo! Big summer blowout. Oaken is a 2-cost inkable sapphire character with 2 strength, 2 willpower. He is a storyborn ally who quests for 1. He is, of course, the shopkeeper from Frozen, who says,
Hoo-hoo, big summer blowout.
He has the ability,
Big summer blowout.
which says you pay 1 ink, give chosen character challenger +1 this turn. He also has the ability,
Winter department.
you pay 2 ink, and you can give chosen character resist +1 this turn. And his flavor text is obviously, woohoo.
I love him. First of all, I love that he doesn't have to exert to do these abilities.
Right, he just runs the shop. You can pay for what you want to as long as he's minding the shop. He has his summer stock, which isn't as relevant at the moment, right? So you only have to pay 1 to dish out Challenger as many times as you need it, and it will stack. And then, of course, the winter gear is in high demand, so it costs 2, and you can dish out Resist to a character over and over again if you need it. So a really fun and versatile shopkeeper with lots of wares to display.
I love that he's Sapphire, too, because I could definitely see this in a deck where he's given ward by something else, right? And maybe a Big Daddy Cogsworth, and he could just last forever and ever, and he's just like a little shop that's open on your board. I love it.
Yeah, so in a lot of circumstances, he's easy to remove with just that he's a 2/2. But as long as he's standing there, as long as he's ready and minding the shop, dish out the Challenger, dish out the Resist, buff up your characters for their adventures. Really fun, I think.
So much fun. Really nice job.
Woohoo!
Perfect for a Great White North episode here.
A Wintermint, if you will. Well, we promised a robust meal, right? We promised protein. We
Yes.
promised real nutritional value and hard-hitting facts, and I think we delivered an absolutely stuffed episode.
Me, too. I am full. I feel happy. I am sated.
What are we going to do next week to follow this up?
I don't know. I guess end the podcast. This is the best it could ever be.
I've got an idea.
Okay.
Let's do a Shimmering Skies constructed meta overview.
Oh, that's much better. I don't
Won't
want to
that
end the
be
podcast.
fun? Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I think it's time. The meta has had a few weeks to develop here. Some decks have come to the forefront, and we're going to try to deliver an overview of the way things are looking as our next set championship season approaches.
We will be able to chat with you more in depth a little bit about your Toronto experience. I can't wait to hear all about it. And we'll talk about some decks we're building, too. We're going to get deep into that deck building mode.
Yeah, I think by the time that this airs, we'll have just about torn apart all of our set 4 decks at last. At last.
At last.
So, yeah, that's going to be really fun. Sugar Rush decks. We're talking Daisy Hyper Aggro decks. We're talking Clarabelle Emerald Sapphire Ramp decks. I want to see all Queen decks. I am ready to build, baby.
It's going to be a blast.
Let's get in the kitchen.
Let's get in the kitchen!
Until then, you can always follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can email us at smorkana@gmail.com, and please do consider writing us a review on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts. It helps a ton.
Thank you so much for listening. And keep on snacking, y'all.